welcome to Follow Soul podcast, a podcast where we choose to live in the frequency of love, actually. Right, that you didn't expect for me to tell today, right? But we are also talking a lot about love when it comes to following our soul, following our highest inspiration and guidance. So today we're going to talk about self-love from a little bit different perspective or a little bit different point of view. Because many times when we talk about self-love, it is in regards to the relationship with us, and it's ultimately or essentially always the relationship with us. But it's also very important that we carry the frequency of love within. And normally we do that when we're embodying a great relationship, right? And this we can do also through different type of practices where we learn and feel into different type of situations and how we can meet those situations with love. So in today's conversation, I want to talk about how we can turn our disturbances and how we can turn our inner disappointments into love. How we can turn that into a way of accepting things as they are. Not being okay with that situations are as they are if we don't like to be there or if we don't feel great at all. Not like letting that be okay. Never letting something that can harm us or anything like that be okay. But rather accept the situation so that we can move through the situation and with love. I wasn't actually supposed to talk about this today, but I felt called to do that. So I guess this is a great moment to talk about it. So whenever you are in a situation when you feel that you are at the moment, a little bit disturbed by a situation, you feel disappointment at some level. This can be that you feel disappointed at yourself for not showing up for yourself or having some certain type of boundaries. It can be that you feel disappointed of a situation. It hasn't gone as you wanted it to be or in the speed you wanted it to be, or it hasn't turned up yet. It can also be in regards to another person. You maybe feel very disappointed towards a certain person or a specific types of people or whatever it might be. You might feel that you haven't been seen or heard in a conversation. And now you're holding on to that type of disappointment. And that disappointment, if we are not letting that go, if we're not releasing that disappointment, we hold on to it, we internalize it, and we become bitter and resentful. What happens within us is that we start to experience resistance in the body. So resistance is something which we normally understand when we're doing these type of unlayering processes in our process of following soul. And we can many times not truly we know that we have some certain type of resistance. We feel that we are annoyed about something or frustrated, or we feel a little bit this kind of feeling of stuckness or this feeling of stagnation or this feeling of I'm not moving forward, I'm keep on going in the same cycles. That is normally how we feel some certain type of resistance. And resistance is also very common that we actually don't look at that often, because it's almost as we're not really seeing what resistance is. So that's why I'm bringing it up to the table today, saying that disappointment or holding on to something, not releasing it from your body, is a way of your emotions to be transformed into resistance. So when we feel a little bit bitter, or when we feel that we are holding on to something that someone said to us or a specific situation, we are not really able to let go of that situation. We are not really able to release. And what happens in that situation is that we're not fully accepting the situation for what it was. We're not accepting the situation for its outcome. We are not accepting for the person for what it said. We have certain type of expectations. And why this is connected to love is because when we unconditionally love something, when we unconditionally carry the frequency of love, we don't love or more or less because of a certain outcome. We don't love more or less because of a certain expectation, something a person said or didn't say to us. That's why we have to be careful of how we are carrying the frequency of love. And sometimes we can say that I'm very loving, I'm a caring person, and I do care a lot about people and stuff like that. But the frequency of love is one of the highest frequencies, meaning that if you are a human living the human experience, chances are that your love frequency needs to be tended to, that your love frequency needs to be something which you practice, so that you cultivate that energy. So to put this into perspective, I will share a little bit of a short story, and then we will go into today's practice. So in today's story is about actually a memory of mine, a situation that I was in for a while ago. And it was like quite of a silly situation according to me, but a lot got triggered, and I chose to look at that situation with love. And because of that, I realized, and first and foremost, I could let go of that situation. I could totally let go of that situation. But because of that, I not only released that situation, but I released a lot of past situations where I have felt the same. So for a while ago, I was in a group setting, where we were a couple of people that were meeting up, having a dinner, having talks, having fun. And I was not so comfortable in that situation because I didn't know so many who was in that setting, and the other ones, they knew each other quite well. So I felt already a little bit uncomfortable. So anyhow, I started as I usually do. I felt that I really wanted to connect to these people and ask them, heart-based questions and so forth. And what happened was that very quickly, one of the girls there, she increased the volume very, very, very high, like in the middle of when I was speaking, in the middle of when I was like having some certain type of conversation, right? And I was like looking her in the eyes and the other ones that I was talking to. And there I felt very, very, very unseen. I didn't feel seen. I felt like rejected. I felt as if the person was rude, actually. I felt a lot of different emotions. And this was not the only thing that happened during that evening. It were other things where I felt that every time I started a conversation, or when I wanted to, in one way or another, connect with these girls, something happened, so that got abrupted. So I came home, was very much disturbed and annoyed about the whole situation. I felt sad. I felt like I wasn't heard. I felt that I wasn't appreciated for being me, and wanting to connect and so forth. And I also realized that this is a pattern of mine. And wow, does it really happen again? I thought I was done with that. That was what I was thinking, right? Because a past version of me, she was used to be in situations and environments where people were maybe not her best fit. Like they were not right for her and she was not right for them. She was with a lot of different people, actually, that didn't fully seen her for what she was and what she truly wanted to be and wanted to birth into this world. So this version of me, so to say, she was very in like a little bit too adaptable, a little bit too inauthentic to herself. So because of that, she didn't know how to choose better people for her, right? And this is what happens many times. Like we are so many people who have lived in inauthenticity and still are living in inauthenticity. And that's why we sometimes choose people that are not for our best good. They're not the ones who are amplifying us. They're not the ones who are our most best cheerleaders. They're not the ones who understands us the most and make us grow the most and makes us expand the most. But we have the responsibility to let go of that. We have the responsibility to say like, hey, I need to move to another environment, to another types of people where I actually feeling really seen. But the past me didn't know how to do that. The past me didn't really have those thoughts. So the thoughts she had instead was, there is something wrong with me. People think that I'm a little bit weird, but they're still like in my company. They still kind of like me, right? And people normally don't like evolve the conversations I have. They normally just say something very short and then the conversation dies out. And she doesn't feel like that is so fun. She doesn't feel that they connect then. And she just feels that, okay, why am I always the one who's asking the questions? Why am I always the one who is trying to connect here, right? Because that is what I felt. So because of that, I also been quite disturbed by other people. I felt quite of like a lot of disappointment towards people. I was disappointed many times in many situations. And the thing is that I didn't see that I actually had a lot of expectations on that those people should behave in a certain type of way or be in a certain type of way. And if they don't want to, that it's not my responsibility to try to control that situation and instead being disappointed. Instead, it should be that, okay, I have to have the discussion. And if that doesn't work well, why am I even in those conversations, in those environments where those people are, right? That is what we have to do. We don't need to be with certain type of people if we don't feel met. Don't need to be with a certain type of people if we don't feel seen or if they are not amplifying us. It's okay, it's okay to be with the people who's actually like boosting us on a daily basis, where we feel that our vibration is heightened every single second with those people. It's possible those people exist, and we can choose that. And we can also release that disappointment. We can look at the situation with love. We can choose love by saying, you know what? I love me, so I'm moving away from here. And I love you, so I accept you for who you are. I accept you for who you choose to be in this very second. So I had a story playing around and out in my mind of that people don't listen to me. People always think I'm weird. And people think I am just like talking about, like, always want to talk about things, And nowadays, when I have grown into my authenticity, nowadays when I have really chosen love and choose the people that I really want to be with, people love me for who I am. They appreciate me having a conversation. They're saying like, wow, okay, fun question. Okay, wow, they're encouraging me. And they give into the conversation. Nowadays, I have people that really saying like, yeah, you're weird and I love you for that. But before it was like a little bit like, yeah, Linny, she's the one who's weird. So for me, I always had that type of vibration of that there is something wrong with me. And this, of course, have played out in so many different other patterns as well. Why I tell you this story is because then when I was in this kind of new setting with new people, which I thought was type of the people that I wanted to spend my time with, and it happened again, I was very sad for that. I was still repeating the patterns, right? I thought that I was done with it. But I also felt once again, very unseen and very unheard. So when I came home that day, I felt that, okay, no, I want to do it differently. And this is very important. I talk often about doing things differently. When we decide to actually do something different than we have from before is when we change that pattern. So if we notice a pattern, and we let ourselves walk through that pattern, when we let ourselves really see that pattern for what it is and decide to do something different than we have done from before, we're already instantly in that moment changing that pattern. What we normally do is that we recreate the same pattern, recreate the same stories, recreate the same sadness. So I knew that, okay, now I have to break it. How can I break it? And when I did the practice that we will go through in a couple of seconds here now, when I did that practice, I finally allow myself the situation for what it was. I finally allow myself for all people involved to be who they were at that point. And when I used the frequency of love in the situation instead, both for me and for them, I could finally let go of that situation. And I could also let go of so many other situations that I had in regards to this. Will this pop up another time? Maybe it will. And in that case, I am another version of me. So in that case, I will also change the pattern. But that felt so relieving to me. And this is a practice which I have continued to use every time that I feel that in one way or another I feel disappointment, or I feel that it's very difficult for me to let go of a situation, like I'm lingering on to a certain type of situation. I want you to pick intention for yourself, a specific person, a specific situation with a person, a specific outcome, specific whatever, somewhere where you feel that I have difficulties in one way or another to letting go of this situation. I keep on coming back to it. Maybe one day I'm totally releasing it, and next day, it plays out in my mind again, and I'm getting annoyed and frustrated and angry thinking about that situation, or I'm getting frustrated, or I feel a certain sense of doubt coming over me. Whatever it is, like you feel that you get disturbed in one way or another. You're emotionally getting disturbed by this situation, and you feel a sense of disappointment. So when you have that intention, what I want you to do is that I want you to write all the different type of perspectives that you can see on this situation. And in the end of that sentence, I want you to write this. So if you don't write in usual times, do it this time, or say it out loud, for instance. And in the end of each sentence, you say, and I accept that. Then I will write out everything that I picked up on that I got annoyed about, and I am giving myself a certain type of love. Like I'm showing up for myself and saying like, okay, you are allowed, Linnea, to write down everything that you feel about the situation, and you're also allowed to see the situation in different lights, in different perspectives. Right? So give space for yourself, but also give space for the other person, that it can actually be from another person's perspective. So for instance, I'm writing down, she increased the volume to disturb my talk, and I accept that. She might felt not seen by me, and I accept that. So one way or another, this girl maybe didn't feel seen by me, something that I said in the conversation or whatever, and how she responded to that, reacted to that, was by increasing the volume. That can be it, right? And you see why I go through this like practice. I go through it to actually get you to understand how powerful this is and how helpful this is, because especially if you are a running mind where you have a lot of these different type of thoughts, and can it be this and could it be that, and many times when we are annoyed about something, we are frustrated, our mind keeps on like zzz, 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 zzz. If you have a very running mind, or if you are used to, especially girls, I notice actually, especially girls, because I don't know if that's the culture, if that is just how our hormones, whatever it is, but I noticed that my boys, when I was talking with them about something, or have been talking with them about something, their minds doesn't run into 50,000 conclusions, right? They run into conclusions as well, because we have the same thing. Like if you have a very masculine energy and you are trying to control the situation, your mind will run into different types and different types. When you are in your feminine dynamic and your feminine energy, I notice that kind of your mind runs even more, right? You have so many creative ideas for why a situation is as it is. You're thinking through this and that. The person might have said this to you because of this and that, and blah 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 blah. The mind is going on and on and on and on, once again, because it's trying to control the situation. But we do is actually that we just get more overwhelmed, more angry, more disturbed, and we have more difficulties in letting go of the situation. But when we give our mind a little bit what it needs to, and then also say after that, and I accept that, then we're not leaning into the mind's need of control. And we're saying that, okay, we can talk about what you think might be the reasons, but I accept that fully also. I accept if it's that reality or if it's this reality. It doesn't really matter. I accept the situation for what it is and what it was. Okay, so next one I wrote was, she might not want to connect in the way I want to, and I accept that. Right? Maybe that person don't want to connect in the way that I want to. Maybe I want to connect through talking. Maybe she wants to connect through dancing. Simple as that. Maybe I don't resonate with this woman after all, and I accept that. Right? Because many times that is what I've done, at least. Like, I believe I maybe are interested in getting to know, and I'm very curious about the person. So I'm being very like open, and I'm like want to spend time with that person and everything. And after a while, I realized that no, we weren't actually resonating that much. And what I did in the past was that I blamed myself. I blamed myself for like, okay, I put it onto myself, right? And that was probably connected with my self-worth. That like if something went quote unquote wrong in my life, I put it on me. So it was my fault that this happened. It was my fault that this person showed up to be in this way, or whatever it might be, right? But nowadays I see that maybe we just don't resonate. And sometimes we need to get to know people to know that, to understand that, right? And I accept that. Okay. I will have a last one. I think you understand what is happening here in the practicing process, but just a last one. Then I wrote, maybe they said something about me when I left, or was even judgmental towards me, and I accept that. Because that is also what I felt. I also felt that they were a little bit judgmental. I felt that probably they will say something when I'm leaving the room. I just had that vibration around. I just felt that in my energy. But it doesn't really matter if that happened or not, right? It doesn't really matter if that's only my truth, or that's actually like what happened, or whatever, right? I left the room, so why should I care? But I accept that. And then I can also say that, and I accept if they just said like, oh, sad that she left. She was fun. I accept that too. So you see where I'm going at this practice. I want you to, in this practice, look at the practice from all different angles that you want to. Let it out. Let all your thoughts out. But don't let the mind control it. Let the mind just accept the situation for what it is. And the more that you write, because what I noticed when I wrote down the sentences more and more and more and more, I could get rid of this kind of low vibrational thoughts, and I started to see it in different lights, in better lights. Like, it can just be that we didn't resonating. Okay, cool, great, I accept that. I felt that my vibration got lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter. So this is really a favorite of mine when it comes to releasing things that we are holding on to. I will leave this for today. This was a practice that I felt from my heart that we wanted to discuss today, and that was important to discuss, and a little bit other perspective of love and showing up with love in a situation. So once again, like, we're showing up with the way that we are carrying the love frequency. We lighten up our heart. We let go of what we are carrying our heart, so we are not carrying the burden, but we are also letting the situation be as it is. We are letting the mind float freely as it does what it does when it's angry. But we also say that if this happened, I accept that. If this was the truth, I accept that. I accept everything. I accept everything. Don't need to hold on to it any longer. And with that, we can also let go of the resistance that we are holding on to it. Move on, release, let go of the situation, and don't feel disturbed about it any longer. So I would say give maybe 20 sentences at least to yourself if you have to have some certain type of, write-off, just so that you write enough of sentences so you really get this release, so to say. Like, repetition is key in this practice. But if you are like a free flower when it comes to writing, if you are used to writing maybe, or if you haven't very easy in letting your emotions out on a piece of paper, don't count, just let it out. Maybe even you need to have a boundary, like only 20 sentences, I don't need more, because then it just becomes overwhelming, or I just become even more resentful because I'm just going into the situation. Because this is a little bit of, we spitting up the toxic thoughts and the toxic vibration that we have within. And then when we see it on a piece of paper, we get more reflective, actually. We get more like, okay, well, I'm a little bit judgmental here, actually. Well, I can actually see it in another type of way. Well, this feels good to me? No, it doesn't. So can I give more love into this situation so that it feels greater and better to me?